I asked you for months for black raspberry ice cream from Coney's Cones. No, we couldn't get any because you spent all the money getting high on the way there.
Thanks for the ice cream. Yeah. Come on, go to bed.
Despite Tommy being a character who was on our screens for 6 seasons of Power, he arrived to Chicago as a bit of a puzzle. In Season 1, the story of Force hinted at a life that was filled with shadows and deeply buried secrets. But despite the breadcrumbs and history that was laid out for us in Season 1, the full scope of Tommy's backstory still remained much of a mystery going into Season 2 of Force. So with the returning Kate Egan, we were always going to be set for a few difficult conversations about their past, why she made certain decisions, and hints about maybe secrets we're still yet to learn. The same goes for JP and D-Mac. So in this video, we are going to be running through the complex timeline of Tommy's backstory from what Tommy and we as the audience have learned since he got to Chicago. We're also going to have a look at Kate's confession, and despite many believing the writing is on the wall for Kate Egan, I'm going to run through a different perspective. Now there are also some inconsistencies with the story, but I will get to that later on. So with that being said, let's take it back to Season 1, Episode 1. Now Chicago was supposed to be a pit stop for Tommy Egan, because he was originally set to go to LA. That was until he found out his grandmother Miriam Egan was still alive, and where he found himself sandwiched in the middle of the drug trade between the CBI and the Flynns. He came to Miriam's nursing home Mulhans, where he was very surprised to find out he had a brother.
My pop said my mom was dead. He never said shit about her being alive.
Yeah, well, nobody said nothing about you.
I don't think either of them were going to wake up this morning thinking they were going to bump into family, but JP did ask a valid question, were there any more of them, and who knows, that's still yet to be seen. JP also revealed that his father told him Kate was dead, and how he'd been living his entire life as a lie, which could have been said for both of them. Now at the time where we were introduced to JP, I did raise a question, what is the connection to James St. Patrick, especially because the names are awfully similar. There's JP, James St. Patrick, and Tommy's middle name is also Patrick as well, Thomas Patrick Egan. Whether it's a coincidence, I don't believe there are such things in Power, although I'm sure as we all know there are some inconsistencies from time to time, so maybe it's just one to keep an eye on. As JP began to clean and redecorate Miriam's house, he came across an old video of Kate and Tommy, and JP questioned how could Kate leave the way she did. Of course, that was something that was answered in 203, which we will get to later on. With the revelation of JP being Tommy's brother, we as the audience weren't the only ones who had questions, so did Tommy Egan.
So, who's paying for Miriam's nursing home?
Residing in a nursing home certainly isn't cheap, but nobody knew who was paying for her fees. She was already in the home by the time JP came into her life, and so he just assumed she had some kind of trust. They also went down memory lane, and where they kind of figured out they were there at different times, which is why they never bumped into each other during their childhood. Now this is where we were introduced to Herman, JP's father. He acknowledged that having JP at the age of 17 was beyond challenging, but they did try and raise him the best way he could. Despite his upbringing and past, he was going to do right by JP. It was also mentioned a number of times that Herman was sick, and the medical bills are astronomical, which is why JP needed a helping hand from Tommy when he got to Chicago. Now fast forward to Season 2 for a moment, there hasn't been one single mention of Herman so far. We haven't seen him, nor has JP, Kate or Tommy mentioned him or how his health is, which does raise the question if they have written this particular story out of Force. Gary Lennon, who's come on as a new showrunner, has made some big changes, and some much needed ones at that. But let's see if they do bring in Herman at any point in Season 2. Now as JP continued decorating Miriam's home, he came across a box full of memories. These were images of JP, Kate and Tommy from back in the day, and he did question one image where it looked like Tommy may have been in the background, where they may have potentially crossed paths when they were kids, but this is something that wasn't followed up in any sort of conversation. As JP continued going down memory lane, he told Tommy maybe they should call Kate, because Miriam Egan was getting bad. For JP, it wasn't just the fact that he wanted Kate to know about her mother being in a bad way. He wanted to get to know Kate, because all he knew about his mother was through what Herman told him, and also what Tommy was telling him. Since Tommy got to Chicago, he told JP Kate wasn't worth his time or energy, and to him, she was dead. But JP did make a valid point. All he was getting was one side of the story. The person who had all the answers he was looking for was back in New York.
It's your son.
With Miriam Egan's passing, her emergency contact was Kate Egan, but there was way too much bad blood between Tommy and Kate. But he did have another reason why he didn't want to make that call. He was dead in New York, and if he or JP made that call, then it did risk Tommy's cover being blown. At the same time, this was also the episode where Tommy found out D-Mac was his nephew, and so this family reunion was inching closer. For many years, JP felt empty. Herman made reference to how he used to watch other kids in the playground with their mothers, and you got the sense he wanted the same thing. But after he called Kate and she hung up, Herman said, "What else did you expect?" And to be honest with you, I don't think JP knew what to expect either. He hoped maybe she would say she didn't go a single day where she didn't think about him. And I think knowing Kate for as long as we've known her and what we've seen from in season 2, there is a lot of regret. The fact that she took ghosting after he ran away from home after his father's death would have gone somewhere in filling the void and guilt of leaving JP behind. But there was a lot more to the story. Miriam played a huge role in leaving JP behind, and Kate's only beginning to come to terms with everything as the fog clears from years of substance abuse.
Miriam hid money in these walls. I don't know, something to do with her troubles. There's thousands hidden in here.
This is also why I do think there is more to the story when it comes to Miriam Egan. She said that there were thousands of dollars hidden in the walls, and it just adds to the mystery. What was Miriam into in the past? She hid thousands of dollars because of some trouble. But what trouble? And what about Tommy's grandfather? We can also ask a similar question about Kate. What happened to all the money Ghost left her? Although I do think we all know the answer. It probably went on drugs and alcohol.
I have a grandson?
This is also where Kate learned she had a grandson, and despite Tommy wanting to keep Kate far away from his family in Chicago, deep down this is something Tommy's always wanted. He has a big heart for family, which is shown through his relationship with the St. Patrick's, Lakeisha and Cash. This love for family is also probably driven by the fact he's never had a real relationship with his mother. Because Tommy had no family to rely on while growing up, he became loyal to those who offered him a sense of belonging. Hence his relationship with Ghost, who became a brother, and others along his journey. However, this was the first time he had a real family of his own, and you could tell how happy it made him seeing everybody together.
Yeah, no, I'm done with that shit.
Take the bag.
Tommy.
What is wrong with you?
Tommy, I'm not kidding, I'm staying clean.
As we entered season 2 of Force, it's been 2 days since Liliana was killed, and with Tommy not having gone back to New York yet for Ghost season 3, Kate is also yet to go back to pack her stuff. It's also yet to be seen whether we do get a funeral for Miriam Egan, and whether Kate and Herman come face to face for the first time since she left all those years ago. And these are the small things I spoke about during the beginning of this video, which they may or may not answer. We all know season 2 is a bit of a reboot to Force, with Gary Lennon taking over, so he may have a different direction he wants to take this in. Now I do have to admit, the direction he's taking Kate's character is phenomenal. This is one of the storylines which is really well written for Force season 2, the growth and development of Kate's character. She had the strength and resilience to turn down a drug she's so used to depend on, a drug habit that dates back 25 years. Although her drug addiction wasn't limited to her alone, it was something she did share with her son. This often created a toxic atmosphere and a very unhealthy environment, one which she wanted to change, especially now that she has a second chance with JP and also D-Mac. There also comes a time where you do have to confront the inner demons of your past and make an amends with those you have hurt through your past actions. That's the 9th step of AA. She's 10 days sober, but she's finding it really difficult because she spent a lifetime on drugs, which often bury the pain and guilt of being a bad mother to one son and leaving the other. Although having said that, there were many other external factors that did play a part, Miriam Egan being one of them. We've already spoken about the effects on Tommy psychologically, which is something I'm sure I'll go into even more detail the more the story unravels this season. But she knows she was a bad mother, and she is trying to right some wrongs. Tommy can see it and he really does appreciate it, although there still is a long way to go with both JP and Tommy. Now here's where the mystery and secrets come into play. Kate is just coming out of a huge fog. For the first time in 25 years, she's able to think clearly, and we've seen her open up to Tommy in ways we've never seen her do before. She's also got a book full of notes which she's written, and I think she's in a place where she's writing her thoughts down, but it is difficult to speak them out loud. I'm sure many of us have done the same thing. Writing something down and speaking out loud about the issues is different, but she has taken that first step. Although what else is in a notebook that she's yet to tell Tommy and JP? Are there any other further secrets she could be hiding? And if she is, what are they?